Yo, what is going on, guys, and welcome back. Today we are doing our fourth week in the Python coding challenge, whatever you want to call it. Before I hop into it, I want to say a huge appreciation for all of you guys. It's Memorial Day. It's a really important day for me, so I want to thank you guys for supporting the channel, and also just say thank you to all the people we've lost over the years, and brothers and sisters of mine. So thank you guys. Let's hop into this. First things first, we've added a couple of things. So this is kind of a twofer video. I've added two functions to the code that we're going to cover, and if you guys didn't watch the previous videos, go ahead and watch them. Also, hit that sub button, hit that like button, and you guys will definitely appreciate this content because I'm really enjoying this. It's getting to the point where it's almost addiction for me because I'm having so much fun creating this tool. So you guys will like it. So first things first, we did add some imports. One thing we imported is this IP info. Super simple tool. I'll show you guys, and I'll put the link in the description of the website. It's just ipinfo.io. It's a really cool tool, but it's also, I didn't realize how easy it is to integrate with Python. I mean, it is so simple. And then we imported time. That's a pretty common one. Time just allows you to pull time and tell you what time it is and date and month and all that stuff. So then the other one I actually changed, instead of Scapy, if you remember from before, in Scapy we were just doing ARP requests and some other imports. I imported everything from there because we're going to keep using Scapy, so I want it to all be here. So another thing you're going to notice with this code is I didn't fix the code yet. What I mean by that is I didn't put it in nice little format and everything. My goal is to keep adding the functionality to you guys so that you guys can see it. And then at the end, I'm going to rewrite the whole thing. Obviously, I'm going to keep the modules. I'm going to keep the actual code, but I'm going to rewrite it in a way so that when you load the tool up, you have a list of options and things like that. So that way it's not the way it is now. But I wanted to keep that because I don't want to just completely rewrite the code and then someone watches that watched all three videos goes, whoa, what happened? So let's hop into it. First things first, here's where we're at when we run it. Okay, so we're going to run it. Keep it over here. You're going to see, I'm not going to put my actual sub or IP space in here for the target. The reason for that is just because every time it shows my MAC addresses, I have to blur them out. It's no big deal, but it's just a waste of time. So you can see it would normally list your IPs and MACs here for the network. So that's one function that we're going to keep on it. We have the port scan. That's another function we've used in the last video. So you guys can go back and watch that. Now we've added the geolocate function and the DHCP listener. So geolocate, what is that? Exactly what it sounds like. Take an IP address and say, where is it in the world? So we're going to say, okay, geolocate. So we're going to hit 2. What IP would you like geolocate? I'm just making one up. I'll say, we'll say 26.210.12.120. And it may not even be real, but it is. Okay. And look at that. Look how fast that was. There's the IP address. City is Columbus, Ohio. Okay, so that is actually a Department of Defense Network Information Center. So we're not going to ever mess with that, obviously. But you can see that's how fast it was, and I know exactly where it's at, where it's located. And sometimes you'll get this to work, not all the time. So that's really cool. So now we'll go ahead and we'll run it again, but this time we'll use the different function. We're going to use the next one, which is the DHCP listener. I'm going to show you how that works and what it kind of looks like. So first things first, here's my phone. I do have a Galaxy Flip. I've had it for a long time. I'd like to actually get a new phone eventually, but I am not connected to my Wi-Fi currently. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to say DHCP listener, and then I'm going to explain what a DHCP listener is. So you notice it's just sitting there. So now watch, I'm going to connect to my Wi-Fi. I hit the Wi-Fi, I'll connect. And look at that. So now it's saying, hey, this phone requested this IP. Okay. That's pretty cool. I went ahead and disconnected just so that you can see. And there we go. So that's pretty cool. That tells us right there that it's pretty functional. I mean, that means we can live watch a network and we will get DHCP records. Why is that important? Well, what if you do an ARP request, right? And something hasn't been on the network in a while, whatever, or it's not on the network now, and you don't get a result. You don't know that that actually exists. Another thing that's really nice about it is ARP requests do actually make noise on a network. They send out a packet and expect a response, right? A DHCP request is listening. It's just listening for ARP requests. That's all it's doing. It's listening. You don't have to worry too much. So now that we kind of covered it, what is DHCP? It's Dynamic Host Configuration Protocol, I believe. But anyway, what it does is it just says when you connect to a network, it's usually smaller networks that have these. When you connect to a network, it's going to assign you an IP address. That's all it's doing. It's assigning you an IP address. ARP does the same thing, but ARP doesn't assign you, ARP stores your IP address and your MAC address together, so that way people know how to communicate with each other on local networks. Okay, so let's go ahead and hop into the code. Look how small this code is for the port or the geolocate IP. This is why I put 2 in here, because of how small this is. Look at this. Boom. That's all it is. That's as simple as it is. So again, I will have this blurred out, some of it, but you'll see if your answer is 2, which is what we did geolocate IP. We're going to print what IP would you like to geolocate, and then we're going to name that geotarget and input. Okay. So you can see here, IP info access token. That's where you have to just put your access token in here. Now you can hide it if you want. Since this is my code, I'm not going to hide it. I will not have it in my actual published code, obviously. But you can see, here's your access token. All you got to do is go to ipinfo.io, create an account, and you get like 50,000 requests in a month or something like that. So you're not going to run out typically. You might, but typically you won't. So now we're using this IP info import, which we did up here. You can see we imported IP info. And it is so simple. You can go to their documentation and it tells you exactly how. But look how easy this is. You can name it whatever you want. I named it handler because it's called ipinfo.getHandler. And that's just getting your access token. So you just say, hey, here's my handler, which is my access token. There you go. And then we say details, which is just giving us the details of the IP. We say handler.getDetails. That's all it is. And then you say what you want, which is our target, which is geotarget. So give us the details of geotarget, and then boom. And then you can see here, for key, value, and details, .all.items. That means give me all the items, right? And then we're going to say key, value. That's just going to print them out. So we're just saying for the key and the value, give us everything. We want everything in all of them. Now you can specify if you don't want some of it, especially like some of the stuff at the end. It said, I can't remember exactly what it said, but it's like saying like emoji, That's because it can't produce images that way. So anyway, you could get rid of that stuff by just filtering it out if you wanted to. But we just left it all for now. Maybe in the future, as we progress this tool, we can do that. But the other thing to keep in mind is with this specific tool that we're doing in the Python 10-week challenge, we are trying to keep it on par, I'll say that. I am going to work on the other one as well, the password generator that we created, and turn it into a password vault, most likely. So that way it'll generate the password, put it in the vault for you. So that will probably keep occurring. But this one has been just so much fun to do that I have kind of forgotten about the other one. So now we got number 3, which is the DHCP listener. This one's a little bit more complicated, but it's at its core, it's extremely simple, especially if you guys have used Wireshark or any of those type of tools. You'll understand this pretty well. So first things first, we're going to define the DHCP listener. So here we're setting up the Berkeley packet filters. If you don't know what those are, they're like, if you've ever used Wireshark or any tools, packet capturing tools, any PCAP files, whatever, you probably know what these filters are, but you need to look up Berkeley packet filtering. It's a huge thing. They're very simple. They're not hard. You can get very complex with them, but you can see here, we went ahead and we said, this is Scapy's syntax. We sniff, and PRN is what's going to basically this sniff is sending everything that you're capturing, you're sending to the PRN. I didn't really understand the PRN at first. I was like, okay, I don't get what they're declaring here, why they're calling it PRN, whatever. But if you go to Scapy's website and look at the documentation, it actually is just telling you this is what it's looking for to send it to. So you need the PRN to be there. So we said PRN equals print packet. Then you filter it. This is where you get the Berkeley filtering. You just say UDP, so I only want UDP, and so it has to be UDP, and it has to be on port 67 or port 68. Now, why is this important? If you don't put this filter, you're going to get every packet that you see. That's going to be a ton of packets, right? You probably will just immediately close the program because it's just going to be scrolling the whole time. That's not what you want. So you have to specify. So then we're going to define the print packet, which is right here what the PRN is being sent to. So we need to define what we want actually to be given. And you can see we need the target MAC address, the requested IP address, the host name, and the vendor ID. Now these are Scapy's naming conventions, so keep that in mind. Most of them are self-explanatory, but just keep in mind that these are the Scapy notification values. You'll see what I mean. And then you can see here, we're just declaring that they currently have nothing in them. So we're saying none times 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. We want to make sure we declare these variables, but we don't have anything in them right now. Okay, so now we want to get the MAC address from the packet. So if the packet, this is, again, you have to read Scapy's documentation to fully understand this, but it's pretty self-explanatory. And the only reason I say that is because if you guys don't know, it's not like I would load up Python and just know has layer. Like I wouldn't be like, oh, has layer, like type it in. I wouldn't know that because that's Scapy's library, meaning I would have to know Scapy's library. That's not a Python native thing. So that's why I say go look at Scapy's documentation. So we're saying if. Now if is a Python thing, right? I mean, that's a coding thing in general. So you'll know if the packet.has layer ether. What's that mean? It means if the packet has a layer of Ethernet, if in that packet there is a layer named Ether or Ethernet, then we're going to say the target MAC, which is what we need here, equals the packet get the layer Ethernet and then the source. So what's that saying? It's saying if the packet has a layer in there named Ether, then go ahead and get that layer and find the source of it. And that's our MAC address. That's what it's saying. So we went and did that. Now we need to get the DHCP options. So DHCP options equals packet DHCP.options. Pretty self-explanatory, right? You're going to get the packet, the DHCP packets, and then you're going to do the options. Now, here's the interesting thing. For the item so we're just doing a for loop in DHCP options, here's what we want to do. We want to try label and value equals item. So if there's a label and a value, that's what we want to try. Otherwise, continue. We want the error, but continue. Why is that important? If you don't put continue, it's just going to stop. It's going to say if it has it, great. If not, stop. We don't want it to. We want it to keep trying. Now, if label, and you're noticing that when we go up here, if label equals, so you can see if the label, so it's going to try to get the label, and if the label equals requested address, which is what we, requested address, then we're going to name it requested IP. So you're starting to see a theme. We're trying to get all 4 of those pieces, right? So if the label equals requested address, so if they look at the DHCP packet and there's a label named requested address, go ahead and name that requested IP here. Now, else if, so keep going down the line. It's just going to keep doing it. It's a for loop. So label equals host name, then we're going to name it host name, right? If the label equals vendor class ID, okay, we're going to name it vendor ID. Boom. So if you break down a packet and look at these, there's going to be these labels in there, and then we want the value of it. So you can see, here we go. Now, if target MAC and vendor ID and host name and requested IP, why is that important? Because we're asking if it has all of these, if there's things in these places. Why is that so important? Because it makes no sense if I get a vendor ID, a host name, and an IP, but I don't get the MAC address, right? Yeah, it's cool. It tells me, hey, there's an IP here, but I don't know what the host name or what the service is. Or the machine is. I don't know what it is, right? The host name, again, you could technically probably do it without the host name or the vendor ID, but the IP and the MAC kind of have to go together. Otherwise, how'd you even get the information? Because this is a DHCP request. So anyway, so if all four of these exist, then we want to go ahead and print them. Now, you can see here, this is where we pulled the time in. You don't have to do the time portion. This just helps if you're keeping track of any of this. So you got time equals, and this one I actually pulled from the guide because I'm not very good with the time stuff, and I didn't even want to look it up. I didn't even want to mess with it. I was like, hey, I could just look this up. It'll take me 2 seconds. I don't have to mess with this. So you say time, string, format, time, and you can see we're saying year, month, date, hour, month, or minute, second. So pretty self-explanatory. Now so if all four of these exist, we're going to say print string format time. So we want the time first, then we want the target MAC, then we want the host name, then we want the vendor ID and the requested IP. Now, you can change some of this stuff, right? Like I almost changed this slash because I saw this is how the guide had it written out. I almost changed it to just a dash because I thought that looked cleaner to me, but I wanted to see how it popped up. And so then all you got to do is run DHCP listener, which is the main right up here, DHCP listener, and then that will call upon all of it. So my goal with this project is, right, if answer equals 3, we'll take all this code, cut it, copy it, we'll put it in its own module, and each module will be called upon if you select the correct answer, right? Pretty self-explanatory, but I want to make the network scanner one of the modules as well, instead of making it look like the main piece of the code. And then we'll go through and have, 5 to 10 options, whatever we get done with, how it looks. And then this will just be a nice network tool that you can throw on and boom, you're set up. Now, some of you may be wondering, with this DHCP listener, how is it even like listening? Because I didn't specify an interface or address, anything. So it's using the current network interface that your computer uses. So if you're having, let's say you have a segregated computer, whatever the case is, you may have to go through and actually change it to specify a different interface. If you have multiple interfaces, there's a couple different things that may have to happen, but for the most part, it will run. The other really nice thing with this, with keeping it the way it is that I can take this code and run it on any machine and it's going to start pulling those and tell me, versus me have to specify an Ethernet port on each one. So this is kind of where we're going with it. You guys can see that I'm keeping it to IP targets type stuff. So port scan, geolocate IP, DHCP listener. We'll try and break it out into a little bit better, make it look nicer, make more sense when you're running it. Those type of things are all going to happen after and the reason for that is when you kind of have an idea and you kind of have these creative juices flowing, if you will. I don't really care how it looks right now. I can fix the beauty of it. I can fix the way it runs, but I can't ever come back to like, okay, I'm pumped up to make this. So for any of you guys that have ever gotten that motivation to do something, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You get motivated, you have something in mind, and you just want to do it. I don't want to lose that creativity, so I'm going to build it. Then we will make it look nice and publish it for you guys, and take out all the all the information like the keys and stuff like that. So hopefully you guys like this. Hopefully you guys are enjoying the Python content. I'm going to continue doing it. This is week 4, so we got 6 weeks left. This is week 5, excuse me, because this one had 2. I know that seems like messed up to you guys, but we actually did miss a week, so this is going to be 4 and 5. And then this has 2 of them, and then next week will be 6. So we've got 5 weeks left, technically, and then we'll keep our regular content. So thank you guys. Hope you guys have a great day.